So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to create a service in Angular. So services are objects that contain some specific logic. They're only created once, which means that there's only ever one instance of them running. They allow us to abstract our code and functionality across applications. So it turns out that we've actually already been using services in our application, and that's right here in our scope. Our scope is actually a service. So Angular supplies us with a set of built-in services, which, just like our scope service, always are prefixed with this $sign. So let's see how we actually create a service of our own. So I'm going to get rid of the semicolon in our tutorial control. And notice that I kind of got rid of any excess stuff, such as our directives that we learned about previously. I'm going to go and show you right now. So we're going to prefix it with that dot, and then we're going to say factory, and then we're going to punch in the name of our service. In this case, I'm going to make a calculations service. So I'm going to put in the name as our first parameter, and then I'm going to say function, if I can spell that correctly. And I'm going to create our most basic service. And the way we create our most basic service is we're going to create some variable, an object. So I'm going to say calculations, just like this. And then our most basic service would look something like this. We just create our object and then we return it. So now using dependency injection, we could then take calculations and punch it into one of our controller or anything else that would want to use this service. So first, remember, our first parameter is going to be, the name, and that's so our minification algorithms don't get confused. And then we're actually going to throw it in as calculations. So now I could actually use my service in this controller. Right now, though, it would make no sense to because it's not doing anything. So let's make it do something. As the name implies, we're going to make it do some sort of a calculation. Let's take this ×2 calculation in our controller and pull it out into this service. So we're going to do this. We're going to say ×2. We're going to say, some function. And then we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before. Rather, this is going to take a parameter, let's say some a, and then we're going to return a ×2. And now we could actually use this function. So instead of doing ×2, just like this, granted this isn't, it isn't some complex code in our case, but just to get the point across, I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to say, calculations, which we pulled in, dot ×2, and now it takes a parameter. Well, what is our parameter in this case? Well, our parameter in this case is scope.tutorialObject.bindOutput. I'm going to punch that in, and now I'm saying, okay, take my first parameter of bind output, and then, it's going to go over to this service, times it by 2, and return it. So now if I refresh this page, it should do the exact same thing as before. And you'll notice it does. And the beauty of doing it this way is now we could pull this calculation service into any controller or anything that wants to use it and use this ×2 function instead of having to do ×2. Well, this is all well and good, but let's do something a little more complicated. So I want to do something that makes a little more sense. So calculations dot, let's say Pythagorean, and we'll do, theorem. I think I probably spelt that wrong, but, you're going to get the point of it. So I'm going to put in, an A and a B, and it's going to return my C squared. So I'm going to say return, A times A, and I'm going to say plus B times B, and it's going to return that. So Pythagorean theorem is, as you probably know, is A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and that's just what we're doing here. So now if I wanted to return our Pythagorean theorem, or if I wanted to use this, I would say calculations dot Pythagorean theorem. I'd punch in some variables and I'd, do whatever I want with it, and I could use this wherever I want instead of having to define this in every single controller. So that is how we create a service and what they actually do for us. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.